Hey, from Texas, it's Lindy Fulford with Striking Splendor. And today I'm going to continue my series on the 10 common reasons that people divorce. And we're going to do a deep dive into two of those reasons. Those two reasons are infidelity and lack of intimacy. Almost didn't say that right. Lack of intimacy. Okay, so let's just dive right into the definition of infidelity. And that's the action or state of being unfaithful to a spouse or sexual partner. Only 31% of marriages last after infidelity. So this is a really big reason for divorce. When is this most likely to occur? Well, surprisingly, I was really surprised when I did my research on this, but after the first year of marriage, right? You would think it was still rainbows and sunshine and honeymoon and everything is good and glorious, but what really happens is that life happens, right? Life moves on. You have kids, you start working up the corporate ladder, and that spark and sizzle that you once had kind of fizzles out. And that's unfortunately when we see the honeymoon phase is over and people just get into that routine of life. It's kind of like taking a drug. You take this upper and you're really, really high, and then you get this low, and some people want to try and find that high again. And the way that they do that is they reach out to someone else. And unfortunately, most of these go undetected, and the chances of this happening again down the road are much, much higher. The second reason that this is most likely to occur is after the first child is born. And a lot of times that happens within the first year or the first couple of years. And this is because then the way that you respond to your spouse and who you have to take care of and where you have to share that love with, one person sometimes feels like they're not getting enough attention, or the other one feels like they're not getting enough support from their spouse. And so then the spouse tends to turn to someone else. And unfortunately, it's the feelings of how you feel towards your spouse, and sometimes it's about how you feel towards yourself that this occurs. The next reason that is most likely to occur is through that 4th through 8th year of marriage. We can call this kind of the 7-year itch. It's kind of that midpoint when life really has settled in. You've started having your kids, you've gone up the corporate ladder, you've maybe bought your first house, you've bought your first car, and things are just getting into this boring, mundane routine. And a lot of times what people do is they get bored, they get a little unhappy, and they go, oh, let's have another kid. And trust me, that is just not a solution to this problem. The last one is middle age. We'll call this the midlife crisis. Okay, the empty nest syndrome. Kids are now out of the house or starting to leave the nest. Men go out and buy the sports car. Women, they go and change their hair. And they're not doing it for their spouse. They're doing it for themselves. They're doing it to make themselves feel better. They're kind of lost in this limbo, and they're not real sure what to do, because for the last several years, they've been nurturing their kids and helping them to grow up. And now they're like, do I really want to spend the next 10, 15, 20 years with the same person I had? And so that is another really big cause of infidelity. So we're going to move on to lack of intimacy. Intimacy is an intimate act, especially sexual intercourse. We all like sexual intercourse. If you're older, if you're younger and you're not married, then you don't. You don't need to know about that yet. But I'm going to talk to you about the 5 levels of intimacy. The first level is infatuation. We've all been there. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. I love him. Oh my God, did you see how he looked? Did you see how he moved his hair and ran his fingers through his hair? Oh, did you see how that shirt fits him? Right? This is the, oh my gosh, I'm so in love. I'm going to marry this person. I just can't believe it. That's step 1. Step 2 is the landing. The day where the veil of infatuation lifts and the 2020 vision of everyday life comes into view, right? You've gotten past the, oh my gosh, this is so fantastic, to it's kind of like, that first year of marriage where life just starts to happen. And then it gets into the bearing, where you're buried under everything. This is the 3rd step of intimacy. You are buried under life. You're buried with bills. You are buried with with work, you're buried with kids, you're going from one thing to another. It's like nonstop, but it sometimes becomes boring and mundane. And so does your sex life. It just becomes either part of the routine, or it becomes not there at all. Or it's, back in that infatuation stage, it was happening all the time. Like, you couldn't keep it on the calendar. It was just a constant thing. By this time, you're buried, and you're lucky if you get it once or twice a month, right? Okay. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes that happens. The fourth level of intimacy is resurfacing. Resurfacing is that aha moment where you just remember what it was like when you first fell in love. And this can happen at any time. It can happen from a death in the family. It can happen from a birth. It can happen, you go on a date to your favorite restaurant and you just kind of, those feelings of euphoria come back and you go, oh, I remember this. And you just kind of look and go, okay. And then that intimacy grows once again. And this can also come from going to marriage counseling. Okay, sometimes that is a step that has to be taken. And as you're going through it, it kind of takes you back to the beginning, to where you started, as a reminder of why you fell in love to begin with. And the fifth level of intimacy is love. It's the sweet spot. It's where the sex is better. It's where the highs are high. Everything is happening. And this is just when you can look past each other's imperfections and realize that you're both imperfect, but you both love one another and you both want to be there together. So these are two of the top common reasons why people divorce: is infidelity and lack of intimacy. And I think they kind of can go hand in hand. And one of the main reasons is just for these two is we just get buried in life. Life just happens. I try and tell my daughter this all the time, is that, man, when you are dating someone, especially in the first year, fireworks should be exploding. There's not a lot of fighting because you're so in love with each other. You don't realize that he doesn't put the toilet seat down, or, that he does disgusting things like farting under the bed sheets, and you just let it all pass, and everything is fantastic. And then once you just get going, you realize some of those little things that didn't used to bother you, now they like stand out, and you notice every little thing that they do. And then you're so busy, just caught up in life and moving and trying just to make it through the day without pulling your hair out, that you lose sight of what the relationship really is. So I can't wait to give you some ways to fix this. If you are struggling with, if you've been through infidelity, I'm going to do a lot of research on this because, like I said, only 31% of marriages last after infidelity, but it can happen. And then lack of intimacy, I can't wait to do this one, right? Some ways to spice up your marriage. But you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait till the end of this series. So we have a few more days to go over the rest of the common reasons why people divorce and a deep dive into that. And then the very last day, I'm going to go over some ways to spice up your marriage. And I'm going to implement some of those as well. So I'm excited to continue this series. And I hope you learned a little bit about some reasons for divorce, which is not ever good unless it is just a must. And I will catch you on the other side. Thanks, guys.